Okay, so welcome everyone to our study abroad podcast series. So today we have Ayushi, who is doing MBA, who just finished her MBA from US, and we'll be knowing about her journey from India to US and things in between. So welcome Ayushi to our podcast.
Thank you so much for the welcome. I'm excited to be here and happy to help as many students from India come to the US. But India is good too. You can stay there.
Sure, sure. So Ayushi, when was the very first time you thought that maybe I should go abroad for some time or some degree or some exposure?
Honestly, it did not start this way. It started the other way around when I wanted to get a degree, and then I started figuring out where I want to get it from. Like when I was in undergrad itself, I knew I wanted to get an MBA because I always loved managing people and like working during my undergrad, working for different clubs and leading them helped me realize that I would like to be a manager at some point. And I knew that I would get like to get an MBA for that. So when I had about 1 year of experience, I started looking into things, and what I realized is I had two usual ways of getting the MBA, either abroad or just domestically back in India. And looking at the Indian scenario, I saw that most good schools in India still have majority of their students as engineers. And I was already coming from an engineering background, and I was looking for a more diverse class. In addition to that, I had role models in my undergrad, people that I looked up to, and they like she also had moved abroad for an MBA, and I talked to her, and in conversations with her, I realized a lot of things that I wanted was in the abroad. Uh, was would I would get from studying abroad, and that would be a diverse class, people with experience, because I believe that for an MBA, experience is required to understand what you're getting into. And usually for Indian schools, um, Indian colleges, here we call them schools. So for Indian schools, people just right off out of college can also join IIMs at most times. So I wanted to take that seriously, understand what business looks like, and then see how I can apply. So so these reasons made me choose and go for a study abroad program. In addition to that, I love to travel. I love a challenge. I love to see the world. So, and I wanted to be a global citizen. So I decided to take that leap.
And how many years of work experience you had before you joined MBA?
Yeah, my work experience was 4 years, which is on the lower side. But in general, like Indians do have a lower work experience, and you would see them around 4 to 5 years. We're usually the youngest cohort in mm, uh, youngest ethnicity in the cohort. And otherwise, people, I would say the average for our school was 6 to 7 years.
So when you are doing this job for 4 years or like let's say 3 years, when was the time you thought that okay, next year I should go for it? Like because you have to start the application and all a bit before. So after third year, probably you decided this, or after second year you were like in dilemma. When was this confusion cleared?
Okay, so I would say that by second year, I think if you've already at least for me, uh, when I was in the second year of my work experience, I realized that getting an MBA in India would not give me a career boost that I'm looking for, especially because people who were coming with an MBA degree, they were coming at a role that I would already get within those 2 years that I would spend doing an MBA. I might and I was already doing work with them, honestly. Like within 3 years, I was working with I had the same title as the MBAs who were coming from different IIMs. Though though the quality of work I would say was different. They were getting more strategy work, and I was getting more technical work, I would say, as a consultant. But still, I would say the status remained the same. So that made me realize that getting an MBA in India was also definitely not going to work at this point. So I knew I was going to get an MBA abroad, and I had started about thinking about that since then. And when and then this next step was GMAT. I think you have to just get GMAT out of your way, GMAT or GRE. And so I'd started working on that around my third year.
So I see that you are from IIT BHU. So usually this engineering thing is sometimes more of a not so much of a choice. We get our branches based on our rank and all, and then we realize that this is not for me. It's like a trial kind of thing that okay, I'm probably stuck in a wrong thing. So in your second year or third year, did something like this also happen to you that okay, this core department thing or maybe the coding thing is not for me, and probably I want to do something which is more valuable for my later MBA application.
So okay, just to clarify, like during our previous conversation, by second year, I meant my second year of work. And that is when I started preparing for GMAT. But like during my undergrad, so my choice for engineering was just for the sheer love of science, math and science. I did not love any other subjects except for that. So I went ahead with it. And yes, engineering is like by default the degree to get if you like those subjects. So it was never like I hated that, but I knew that I did not like coding as much. Like, and coming from a metallurgical engineering, we did not have a lot of coding. We had some aspects of data while we were working with data sets to figure out the right composition in metals. Um, but I had not done coding until my fourth year, and that too, like at least for some of the companies, they never require coding as an exam. So I just known Python. I knew the basics, the basic course, the core courses that they have during engineering in the first year for coding, like they teach you C++. But apart from that, I did not have much understanding. But what I knew from my experience was I loved working with people. I enjoyed my time like heading the clubs. Um, Leading them, working with people, organizing things. So I knew that uh, my calling is working with people and not working behind computers. So and I still do code. Like I joined as a data analyst, I was still coding. I was and currently my in my current company, I'm still coding. That does I enjoy that as well because it has mathematical and like logical reasoning. But I know my eventually my goal would be to be leading teams and working for creating a product or delivering a project.
So, there is this dominant personality of introvert and extrovert kind of people. So, do you think people who are more on the introvert side should go in this coding and like product, etc., whereas the extrovert should go on the customer acquisition side, which is sales and marketing? Obviously, I will not say it's a 0-1 thing. It's more of a trade-off. Like you are saying, you are also doing a bit of a coding, but you like people, managing people more, talking to people, probably going out, travel the world, etc. So your dominant personality is more on the extrovert side, or am I wrong?
I would say yes. My dominant personality is on the extrovert side, and I do agree. Like, especially, I think in the Indian context, maybe you can get away as an introvert. But here, especially, like, depends upon the kind of work you're looking for. And if you're looking for consulting or IB or other mainstream jobs, then being extrovert helps for sure because you have to network with people, you have to find ways. And if you're not comfortable with that, then it would be hard for you to even get the interview from them. And in addition to that, but if you're an introvert and you're ready for challenge and you want to change that about yourself, then also you can change that because of like even as an extrovert, like coming to US and talking to different nationalities, it's not easy. Like finding a common ground you can talk about. So and in a different language. So that is also hard. So even as an extrovert, I found it hard to network here. So you will have to be ready for a challenge.
Sure, sure. And when you thought about MBA, what were the colleges and countries that were in your mind? How many of them you applied to?
Yeah, so mostly first I looked into, in general difference, I would say the most good colleges are either in Europe or in US. And then the major distinction between the two is Europe having 1 year MBA most of the time, and then US having 2 year MBA. So the role model that I talked about, she was from a senior from my undergrad. She was doing her MBA from Europe, and I had few that did in US. And after talking to her, I realized like 1 year MBA is kind of very accelerated. Like you are moving to a new country in the same year. You're again like the way right when you enter, you start looking for jobs, and then you're already by the end of the year, you move into your job. So it is very fast paced, and and you don't exactly get to connect with your cohort or classmates during that time. And with US, it was the other way around. 2 years give you ample time to understand. It is also, again, fast paced for sure, but you get at least an internship, you get the lay of the land, you can experiment changing or moving to a different stream, which is important because, like, when you're going for a 1 year MBA, whatever you previous experience you have, you kind of move into that stream, or because you don't have any other. So, in a good economy, maybe you can change your whole industry or maybe the kind of function that you want to do, but it could be hard. So that was one of the reasons, like the whole experience, I believe, is in a 2 year MBA is better. And also the money in US is good. So Europe, like I did my exchange in Europe, and I came to realize that even some of the good schools, they don't get paid so well. So but then they have better work life balance. So you need to pick your own poison and see what works for you.
So this exchange offer was also like another disadvantage when you do 2 year MBA. Maybe in 1 year, it will be too much of a mixture of doing MBA here and there, an exchange semester, etc.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that also I don't, yeah, it would be a lot of chaos if you're doing it in 1 year MBA. I think it's better, like if you're doing 1 year MBA, then not to do an exchange program, because then that MBA itself is an exchange. It's like it goes away pretty quickly.
It becomes a travel program.
Yeah. So MBAs are a travel program, honestly.
So it's actually travel, in disguise of a program, and they get all the
Actually,
good people travel together.
yeah. It is, yes. This is how it is quoted here as well. It's like a 2 year vacation.
It's like in India we have roadies and big boss. It's a combination of both with educational version.
That's another way. That's an interesting way to put it. I've never thought it that way, but it makes so much sense. Like you've got tasks, you have to complete that, but you're enjoying with your friends with no consequences. So yes.
Sure. So you applied to how many colleges eventually?
I applied to 5 colleges. I applied to 4 colleges in the US and one college back in India. I applied to ISP because that is one college that takes in people with more experience than just 1 year. Um, and it was like a safe option for me. If nothing worked out here, I could get an MBA in it back in India as well in a good school. And the 4 colleges here were Duke University, Tuck, Carnegie Mellon, Tepper, and then Stern, NYU Stern.
And this Duke was the obvious choice out of all, like when your admits and all came, or you had any confusion?
Mm, it was the obvious choice when it finally came down to it, because they gave me the highest scholarship, and also it was the best ranked among the acceptance that I got. So among these, I got acceptance from 3 colleges, um, and this was the one with like most prestigious, and also like and honestly like most prestigious in just terms of rank, because this is how we usually see it, and it's only when you come here you understand like a little bit of difference between the schools. So that time for me, ranking and their standing was one of like probably the top criteria for choosing my school, and then the scholarship.
Sure, sure. And once you decided you will go to Duke, then you had to do your visa, accommodation, and flight, right? So, any of those gave you like some hiccups? What was the hardest thing out of these three?
Okay, a lot of things I would say. Let's start with the visa because that year there were, and by the time I got accepted in May something. This was like I got accepted like after a third round. I was on the wait list for the longest time. So when I got accepted in May, um, the most of the interview slots for visa were already over, and it was in the air that more interview slots are going to prop up. And that time, people were just going on a frenzy. They were like hiring visa consultants that book the slots for you, or you just have to um, go to these sites, which wherein people like keep on checking the site and post if their slots get open. So you have to be like checking the website for a long time. And I already had a H1B, not sorry, not H1B. I
B1,
had
B2.
a B1 B2 visa at that point, so I had the option of Dropbox. So I chose that, and using that, I was able to get an earlier interview slot. However, it is funny that that my interview, I got my passport like just 3 days before I had already booked my flights. I was just hoping everything just pans out in time, and I got to my college 3 days before, like 2 days before the orientation was to happen. Funnily enough, like people who did not have a B1, B2 visa and were going through the normal route, the school sends a letter to the embassy saying, this is urgent, that is, can you expedite it? And they get it expedited, and they were there before me, and they had their visas before me. So at that time, I felt like Dropbox wasn't the fastest option, but yeah, so school also helps in this process. Next, you talked about is the flights. Flights gets expensive during this time, especially because everyone's flying to US, and you're also buying one-way ticket. So which probably if someone who's first time traveling to US is a big expense. You look at those ticket prices and like this much for one way. So that's it. Yeah.
Sure. And what about accommodation? Were you able to find that, or was it hard?
Yeah. So I got lucky here, I would say. So usually when you're about to start a college, you form groups, people start looking for people. There are Slack channels. Different universities can work different, but we had a Slack channel where you can post that you're looking for a roommate. This is where you plan to get a house. Now, for Duke specifically, Fuqua, like all the MBAs live in a close vicinity, which helps in the overall like bonding with them, connecting, and forming friends. So all of them live in that community, and that community had most of the apartments which were full. Like most of the Indians, wherever they were living, all of that was full. And for a sense of comfort, you like to live around Indians. Like it helps you figure out all of the things coming to a new country together. And so that was already full, but yeah, I found someone who was looking for another roommate and I joined them. So she had already found a house, but one of her roommates dropped out. So I was lucky enough to be that roommate. Um, and I was already like running short on timeline. Was admitted late, so everything had to go quickly. So I was already figuring out my visa stay. So I didn't I saw few options, but from like looking at afar and like having to pay all of that, having someone like finding someone who's already here that can help you with and you can become roommates with, that helped a lot.
Sure, sure, sure. And so this was not your first time in US, right? You have been to US before also.
Yes, I was in US one time before this, and it was through my company, Mastercard, and yeah, we were here for a business visit, so that is when I came here.
And
But it
which
was like a short
location?
trip.
Which
Sorry.
location was that?
That was purchase, New York. Like mostly stayed in New York, and my one of my cousin is also in US, so I visited California as well.
Okay, okay. And that was like how long was the trip? That one?
Just 15 days, 15 days. So not
Okay.
much.
Okay, okay. So this was the like trip in which you had to spend like more time and there was like a full-fledged shifting kind of thing happening for you.
Yeah. Because like my earlier trip was small and plus I was being paid by the company. So money was never. So if whenever I had to do something, I'll just get an Uber. But when you come here as a student, money becomes like, especially when you do all the conversions, your head is always working around conversions. So everything looks expensive. So even like getting a cart, when you come out of the flight and you want to get a cart in the airport, that can charge you money. So so everything starts costing you money, and that when you get a little overwhelmed, like how do I save? But eventually, I think you start learning to like enjoy your loan money, and then you're going on trips, you're enjoying with friends, you're going out for dinners and drinks. So that happens. It's a slow pace, but you eventually get there.
Sure. You mentioned some scholarship that you got along with the offer. Tell us a bit about that scholarship.
Yeah, sure. So I got a 4-day fellow scholarship, which is for women. Um, uh, and it was like about 50% of my tuition fee for of that makes it really viable to do an MBA in US. I think definitely like MBA in US is more expensive than that in Europe. Also because of the distinction of 1 year and 2 year. But being paid well in US pays off that whatever cost that comes. In general, I think have getting a scholarship at least from 30, more than 30, like people got good scholarships. I think most Indians got scholarships. uh, that really helps to make it more viable and feasible to get an MBA degree here.
So this scholarship is also a kind of encouragement marketing by the scholarship people to attract students. Did that also occur to people like that?
I think it is definitely necessary because otherwise it would be hard for every like background, people from every background, at least from developing countries, to come to these schools. So they definitely make sure to help promote that. And like, especially with issues concerning around visa, if you're not getting it under 3 years, then you have and then like your overall NPV, I would say, like would not make sense just because it would be hard to pay back your loan within 3 years if you have to take that into account. So it becomes, I think, I wouldn't say necessary, but it ideally it would be nice to have.
Yeah, yeah, and I think with this they get the good ones also in the group, like the cohort, and there could be some mediocre ones, let's say, and you know, and so on. And the mediocre one gets to study with the good ones. So it's like a
Mhm.
cross subsidy model. There, some people get the subsidy, and the other people pay a bit more. Overall, becomes like a plane. You know, each seat cost different, but overall plane is profitable, and all the people are happy, and all the people get the same service.
Yes.
Sure, sure. And once people come to US, you know, there are a few cultural differences like doing things by yourself, cooking, cleaning, washing, laundry, etc. Which of this was the hardest for you to adjust to, and are you adjusted now?
I'm smiling because just yesterday I was building my bed frame. I just moved to DC, and I think you have to build your own furniture, which is just funny. But as an engineer, I enjoyed it. I find it fun as a problem, but a lot of people don't. However, you can get around it. You can get a task rabbit guy, which is just like having a handyman at your side, and they can do the work for you again at a cost if you're ready to pay. Apart from that, like I think laundry is pretty easy. Both drying and cleaning gets done. Like it's the 30-minute job. Just putting it in the hanger is probably what takes time. Cleaning is also fine. Most of that can be done in the dishwasher. People still, even having a dishwasher, people do crib about it. We Indians are very Very pampered, honestly, in terms of the help that we get. So it does get hard for Indians. Like I've seen some Indians like coming to the third thing, cooking, which is I think the hardest by far, because a lot of Indian, unfortunately, men don't know how to cook, women too, but so they mostly starve or survive on frozen food. Haldiram frozen parathas are good, like so that does impact their health. But I would suggest people learning how to cook, because that is an important skill to have. So cooking is what something that takes time, and in a busy schedule, like when you're studying, it gets hard. So what I did was I found a midway. Um, I would get my lunch in the school itself, because it is subsidized, and you've got a salad bar. So for like $6 to $7, you can get a nice, good meal. Breakfast, I'd skip, or I'll just get something on the go, like a shake, protein shake or something. And for my dinner, what I do is I would meal prep, or at least I'd make anything in like a huge batch if I'm making rajma or chole or anything in a huge batch, and I would continue eating for 2 3 days. Not advised. A lot of people don't like it, because like as Indians we like to eat fresh food and we can't eat the same thing. But I was okay with it, and I've always been living with non-Indian folks. So looking at them, I've learned that it is okay, it is safe to eat food which is refrigerated for 2 3 days. So
So you use the hack that, cook once and eat few times kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Because every day putting in 2 3 hours, and especially like Indian food takes a lot of time to cook. And if you're cooking something like rajma or other things, you wouldn't cook. You don't get okra, bhindi here, so you wouldn't be cooking those vegetables, which are still quicker to cook. So yeah, cook once, eat the rest of the week.
Sure, sure. And did you also use this Maggie and soup hack at times?
Yes, Maggie always, like, it is a bonding moment for all the Indians. Like when you're all exhausted coming from a long night or just a night of partying, you just sit together, eat Maggie. You feed your non-Indian friends as well Maggie. Show them that this is the greatest, bestest noodles in the world.
So I think if Maggie was not there, a lot of people who go for study
But
abroad, would have starved maybe.
yeah, yeah. And actually, like for MBA, it is a little different that I've seen. MS people, you still go back, but MBAs like start to splurge a little, and also we go into a lot of networking events, so get a lot of free food, at least for first few months. So that helps. It takes a toll on your definitely health. Like you're not getting the best food, but you get free food. So didn't have to cook for few months in the beginning.
So you're always looking for opportunities where you get some cooked food.
Free food? Yes, you would see this like we have even in our office as well as in school. You have free food Slack channels, and anyone who posts like there's free food here, people would start running over to that place. So
Sure, sure, sure. Okay, coming to the next question. So, there is no placement cell as such in generally like in foreign colleges. And I think you mentioned that you already got this full-time job and you moved to DC. So, how was your job hunting in this tough market? How did you secure your job and what advice can you give to others?
yeah, sure. So there isn't, yeah, there is a placement cell. At least for our school, there was a group of career coaching teachers or career coaching people who would help you get through it, and they are the ones who would call companies to the campus for coffee chats. They don't take interviews on campus. They don't, the intake is not from campus, but they do have a dedicated number of people who would come to the campus to start knowing the people, and then if they like it, taking interviews from them. Every school is known for some kind of pipeline like this, and our school had a consulting and IB pipeline. So um, s- uh, some companies definitely have to come to maintain that relationship with the school, so they would come. So I'll break my whole placement journey in, uh, I can say, two different ways. One is through school, and the second is self-led. The first one through school is wherein it is the school who has bring in those companies, has allowed us to have coffee chats with them. There's a school portal in which they would put all of these coffee chats, and you go through a very regulated, very uh, very streamlined way towards the interview. You've got a lot of support from the school, from the students, from your seniors about how to navigate it, how to how to talk during those coffee chats, then how to work through the interviews and everything. So this is one. So I went through it, and I got an internship through it at EYP during the summer. So this was one. Now coming to phase two, which is self-led. So after like the consulting, definitely market was on a low and everyone's start dates was getting pushed. So our start date was also got pushed to like a very later date. So I decided that I'll find a job because they can even resend the offer. A lot of this had been happening in the consulting world. So I started with my own, and that is when I feel like the help from this career cell is not so much. I mean, they say that you're there for reviewing your resume, for helping you find out people to connect to, because referrals are important in the US. So, and they do help, but I think at the end of the day, you know yourself and what you need, and you have to work yourself. So I had connected with them, but it's just at one point I knew that I knew everything I need to know from them, and I need to work like myself. So I would use all these different portals like Indeed, LinkedIn, and these places to figure out job opportunities, and then also have people around me who all of us will share this information. So that is really helpful, and that is how what we call team fuqua, like um, having supportive people around you. And yeah, then um, editing my own resumes, finding referrals there, and for that leveraging fuqua connections, fuqua alumni, even my undergrad alumni at that point, and getting a referral there and going through the interviews is what I did, applying to a lot of places, and eventually one did convert, and I practiced for the interview and I was there. So anything in depth if you want to, like, to, I'm giving short answers
How
because we
many
can.
how many rejections you faced?
Oh, a lot of them in my second year. I think I've never faced so many rejections in my life. I've always got something pretty easily, and that was a learning curve for me. And I think that helped me, uh, like come back from a failure and stand up from a failure, um, more resilient than ever. And I think my best learning from the entire MBA journey was learning from failures. Yeah, so numbers I don't even remember now. Like there are application rejections, many. I would say I'd stopped counting when I got to like I'd read it. I didn't even had to read the email. I would read the headline of the email and I'll just skip the email. And like after the interview from the final rounds as well, because they would be like interviewing about 50 people for just one job, like 30 to 40 people in the last round for just one or two spots. So yeah, so a lot of rejections, but I'm happy to be here.
So this will be one advice also to a lot of people that be ready to handle rejections or be prepared to handle
Yes.
rejections.
Yeah, it is not as rosy. This I mean, it's a roller coaster ride. Sometimes you're so happy to be here because it's a new life, you're having fun, you're getting friends. But at the end of the day, you would be struggling a lot of things alone. Finding a job is hard. A lot of people got into depression. Like I've seen friends who it gets hard. You start doubting yourself. So just be ready to face failures and learn from them and stand up and start again. And if you work hard, you would get there. Hard, and a little bit of luck, you'll get there.
Sure, sure. So thank you, Ayushi, for your sharing. and your insights, etc. It was great listening to your journey, and we hope our audience would get some insights, and maybe some of them might ping you over LinkedIn and all once we post this on YouTube and LinkedIn. So feel free to reject them if you need.
No, I'm happy to help people, especially navigating this, because I realize there's not a lot of people to um, go back to. And like, even on LinkedIn, you get so many rejects when you're trying to figure out these applications. So I've been through all of this, and I'll try to help as many as I can.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye bye.